Hey everyone, today we're going to be installing a Boss TSG1100 salt spreader onto a 2017 Silverado 2500. This is how the spreader will come. There'll be a couple smaller boxes of parts which I've already unboxed and laid out on the counter. And here we have the rest of our parts to install our salt spreader, and we'll get started. We're going to start by installing the RT3 attachment assembly, which sits right in there like this. Make sure it's lined up in the back, and your bolt holes should line up there. We'll get bolted down with 1/2" grade 8 bolts. There should be 6 of them in the pack. We're going to use 4 of them right here. The bolts get installed from the front to the back with the nuts on the inside, just like that. We can go ahead and tighten those down. Alright, now that those are tight, which they use a 3/4 inch socket and ratchet, we're going to go ahead and loosen these bolts and take them off so we can install the leg assembly. And these take a 9/16 ratchet and socket. Okay, with those bolts out, you can go ahead and set the leg assembly on here, which just sits on here just like that, and then bolts with the same bolts you just removed. Alright, the leg assembly is on and all the bolts tightened. So next we're going to mount this on the truck. There are some stabilizer arms right here that are going to get mounted here, but we'll need the spreader on the truck to see at what level to mount them. So the next step is going to be to install the RT3 hitch into the truck. And it can go on backwards. Make sure the hook is down. Put your pin in, and you'll be all set. So we got the wheels extended on the leg mount, and so we'll go ahead and flip the spreader over onto the wheels. So it should stand on its own just like that. So make sure your lock pin is out so that it can engage the hitch on the truck. And then you'll just take it, roll it over there, latch it over the pin, roll it up, and then lock the RT3 hitch in, which I'll show you how to do. Next, you'll want to make sure that the pin is all the way in and that the red safety lock is down and over it. Flip your wheels up and you're all set to go. One thing to keep in mind when installing the RT3 hitch on the truck is there are 2 different holes in the hitch itself, which allow the spreader to be moved closer or further away as needed when you go to install your stabilizer arms. Originally I had mine set out a little further. My stabilizer arms weren't on the bumper, so I'm going to move it in one and try it again. So you have a couple adjustments. Obviously the different holes here you can line up, and then you can screw your stabilizer arm in and out as you need to. So I'm going to set mine on the 3rd hole down from the top, and then I'll adjust my pad as needed to get the tension I want. So you're going to use 4 3/8 stainless steel bolts per stabilizer arm. And what you'll have to do is install the bolts from the inside out so that you can get to all 4 with a wrench or a ratchet. Then you can go ahead and tighten those. Now with the stabilizer arms installed, you can go ahead and adjust those pads down until the spreader is level. Once the spreader is level and the feet are tight against the bumper, you can go ahead and tighten down the lock nut on there all the way against the top, and then you should be all set, and we'll move on to wiring. So this is going to be the basic layout of the wiring harness. Here, this connector will go through the firewall to plug into your controller for the spreader. And then these two ends here are going to connect to the positive and negative terminals of the battery. So we're going to start up in the engine compartment, and the first step is going to be to drill a hole in the firewall big enough to get this plug through so you can get it into the cab. Now I've located where the plow wires run through the firewall, right there in the center of the camera. And I've checked the firewall on both sides, and that's actually clear all around that. So we're going to go just to the left of those wires and drill another hole right there. So I went ahead and routed the wires through the firewall and then covered it with a spray foam. You can get down at Napa. That'll dry hard to help hold those wires in place, keep moisture out of the truck, and it'll also help with noise a little bit. I ran the battery power wires along the side here and connected to the battery on the left side. And then the rest of the wires that go back to the spreader, I just followed the wire harness down along the frame rail underneath, zip tied to the back here. And then I actually brought the wires out. You can see right there by the license plate. That keeps it up and out of the snow as much as possible, and also less chance of getting it caught on something. And then when we're done with it for the season, we can put it back behind that license plate and you won't be able to see it. There's a short jumper wire I didn't show before that comes from that plug and plugs in right there on the spreader. We'll need to install that. And then these ratchet straps are a safety measure in case something would come loose to keep that spreader from falling off. So they bolt there. Boss tells you to run them in between the bumper and the truck and connect it down below. It's kind of a tight fit on ours, so I ended up just going underneath the bumper and connecting them to the frame down below. And then again, the wire coming back here is all zip tied up to, I just followed the wire for the taillights all the way back, zip tied to that. So it's nice and clean and out of the way, and we don't got to worry about it catching on anything. In the truck, the controller is made to be permanent mount. We did not want a permanent mount in this truck, just so we don't have to look at it all year, as it is used for personal use also. So you can see our snowplow connection there for our plow controller. We come in through the firewall right down next to the snowplow controller, right there. And then I zip tied over and come out in the center of the dash underneath there. So I left a lot of extra, which you can coil up and tuck under the dash when it's not in use. And you can also use the bracket and mount this controller anywhere. You'll just screw it in with 2 screws. We just leave ours freestanding on the console here. Allows you to use it when we need it, and when we're done we can unplug it and hide the wires away and you won't even be able to tell. If you guys have any questions or comments, let me know.